You want to read more books, but you feel like you don't have enough time, you can't concentrate on the book, or you feel overwhelmed by all of the choices out there. When we're going to choose a book, we feel overwhelmed because it's such a big commitment in our mind. We're like, okay, I gotta get this choice right. And the solution is actually quite simple. It is reading faster or speed reading. And that's what we're gonna talk about in this video. I'm going to share 4 ways of why most people read slowly, 10 proven techniques to help you read faster, and finally 7 ways you can remember everything that you read. When people say, I read book XYZ so you don't have to, it drives me absolutely nuts because it's the dumbest thing in the world. I read the books so you don't have to. How does that help you at all? However, sometimes it actually is appropriate in books like this. So I read the speed reading book by Tony Buzan, Speed Reading for Dummies, Breakthrough Rapid Reading, the Evelyn Woods program, all of it so you don't have to. All of the information in this video is going to be from those books and other lessons I've learned becoming a faster reader. Now, of those speed reading books that I mentioned, the best one of the bunch by far is the Speed Reading for Dummies by Richard Sutts. And he says something in the book that stuck with me. And he just said, speed reading is really just reading with a deeper level of concentration and efficiency. We think it's like flying through the words and fast and it's some sort of special magical skill. It's not. Here are the 4 main reasons why people are slow readers. And the first one is we learn to read word by word. Parents or teachers, that's how we do it, 1 word at a time. This is phenomenal when you're in elementary school. And the next one is subvocalization. When we read, we have a little voice that's reading along with us inside our mind. The voice inside your head, that is slowing you down because it can only go at a maximum speed. You can only talk so fast. This is hit or miss in the research. It's not really certain if it slows us down. The next one is regression. It means going backwards. So as we're reading along, our mind usually unconsciously goes back and we'll reread sentences or paragraphs or little sections that we might have missed, and we're kind of like splitting our attention. We are taught when we are young in school that we have to get it. We have to understand it so then we can pass some sort of exam or test. You ever have a moment with somebody where they say something to you and it seems like it's not very important, but then you think about it and it was like profound and life-changing? And I had this ex-girlfriend once and I'll never forget it. It was just when I was getting back into reading and I was going real slowly and I was analyzing it. And she just asked me, like, do you really want to obsess over just that one book, or do you want to read all the books? And she just pointed to like all the books that I had on the shelf, and I was like, holy shit, I want to read all of the books. And that is what these techniques are going to help us do. Now, the first one is reading with your eyes. And you might be like, what? Of course I read with my eyes. It is impossible to see 1 word at a time. Now, does that mean that you could just look at a page and boom, you get it all? No, but you could definitely use it to your advantage. Most of us think that our eyes move really, really nice and smooth just across the page. I've never been this close to the camera. Our eyes, if you can see it there, they move in fixation points. So they don't move really smooth in one direction from left to right and right to left. They go in little jumps. And if we can understand that, we can use that to read faster. This is the biggest change you can make to read faster, is learn how to read in chunks. Or I think Speed Reading for Dummies calls it clumps, but I don't really like that. It sounds weird, right? Like clumps. You read a chunk, 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 chunk. That makes you go so much faster. I know I said to read with your eyes, but really what you're doing is you're reading with your brain. You need to learn to trust your brain because your eyes, when you want to speed read, are going to go much faster. And at first you're going to be like, I didn't understand any of that. I was just going chunk, 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 chunk. After a while, your brain will pick it up immediately. Just like you can look outside. You can see lots of things. Boom, could you see that? 1 number. Now try this. Boom, a bunch of numbers. Boom, just 1 word. Your mind can read it easily. Now try this. Boom, your mind can pick those up in an instant. The next one is an interesting one, and it's read from a bird's eye view. So most of us, when we read, we're like right up there in the book just trying to read. He recommends getting away from it, like really coming up above the book. The next one is to indent. So you could start here, and then you read to here, next, next, next. It works in conjunction with chunking. It's going to feel very strange and weird, like you're missing things, but as you learn to trust your brain will pick it up. So that little voice in your head, that internal voice that talks, it has a maximum speed limit for most of us. However you talk, mileage may vary, but most of us max out at maybe 250, 300 words a minute when we're talking. The best way to overcome that, start speeding up so your voice is just like, whoa, wait, I can't keep up, I can't keep up. Good. You don't want it to keep up. That voice is going to stop because it maxes out at 300 and then it's just like, man, I am out, I am tired, I cannot keep up with this. That's fine. You don't need it because you're trusting your brain and your brain's reading with your eyeballs. Some of the books mentioned counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 while reading. It didn't work for me. Another one mentioned humming. It actually worked. I don't do it all of the time, especially depending on where you are in public or something. People are like, what the hell's going on with that guy? Another one is to chew. There were actually studies that showed chewing gum helps with concentration. The next one is very interesting. It's to visualize the words. Now this is much easier said than done. As you're kind of chunking the words, you're visualizing the scene, and that stops the subvocalizing. Now 3 out of the 4 books that I read said to use your finger. When we're kids, we're taught use your index finger to read and follow along, and this is how we learn to read word by word. It keeps your mind from going backwards. Then at some point, elementary school, middle school, they say stop using your finger, which is actually good advice, but we don't get taught these skills here that make it easier to read without our finger. It's useful to get started, but you should ultimately get to a point where you stop because you learn these skills like chunking. When you're chunking fast enough and reading 1 or 2 lines or 3 lines at a time, you don't want to be using your index finger. If you really notice that you keep going backwards and rereading things, cover it up. Get a piece of paper or a little cardboard thingy that I even used to use one, and you just cover up what you've already read. As always, if you like this stuff, subscribe to the channel, but I'm gonna let the younger version of myself explain why you should do that.
I don't know, subscribe if you want, don't subscribe if you don't want. I don't know, I don't really give a shit. It would be cool though. It's nice to share information.
The first one is prepare your environment. When I first heard this, I was like, what? I don't know about that. Most of us actually do this unconsciously. We read in bed before we go to sleep. It trains your brain to go to bed. And as we said before, speed reading is really just extra focused concentration and efficiency. You want to be in an environment where that is conducive. Many of the speed reading books recommend to time yourself so you can see yourself making progress. I know most of you aren't gonna go do that. Number 7 is probably one of my favorite ones, well, my second favorite one, and that is to read faster. Have you ever watched a video on 2x speed or even 3x speed, maybe to a point where you can't even understand it, just you're like, what? And then you go back to 1. It feels like slow motion. That's the same concept with reading. You just read as fast as you can, maybe not even understanding anything or catching a few words here and there and here and there and there, and you do this, and then you go back to normal speed, and it feels, oh, this is fine, this is a little slow even, and you'll notice yourself just kind of picking up speed faster and faster and faster, and you've now become a faster reader. When you read, you need to have a reason for reading. How does this work with speed reading or having a purpose? When you're reading a book for a specific reason, you know what to skip and what not to skip. If you're like, I'm reading this book because I want to get better at making my business more profitable, I want to make more sales, you're telling your brain this is kind of what we're reading for. Now, one of the most important things I could say in this video is this: you read your brain. That means when you're reading a book, you're reading your consciousness. Those words mean something to you, to your brain specifically. Every single person on the planet could read the same book and we'll all have different takeaways. You could read the same book over and over and over at different stages in your life, and you will read it differently. It depends where your brain is at that time. That's why if you have a purpose going in, then your brain is set for that purpose, and that's what you're going to look for, and you're going to find, and you're going to read. Next, it's like sex. You gotta spice it up a little bit. You gotta make things interesting. It's about reading different things. One of the biggest things, and I know I had an issue with this is what we're all taught in school, right? Is when you start a book, you finish it. We all read it together as a class. Here's the book we're reading. It's just one book at one time, and we get all the way to the end. Life changes, and your brain changes. So if something takes you kind of weeks or months, your brain might not be into it. You might not want to read it, but we're always taught you got to finish one book and then you can go on to the next one. Guess what? Not true. You could have many books. Right now I'm reading so many books. At first it felt chaotic and all over the place, but there's a little variety. There's a little bit of everything. So you're always reading. You'll read way faster when you're actually engaged and interested in the things that you're reading. You want to be in a state where you're aggressive and curious. Now, I'm just naturally super curious, but I know everybody is, and we all have things that we're curious about and want to learn. With the aggressively curious part is you can ask yourself a simple question. What do I want to learn from this book? And that kind of goes back to having a purpose. Now, the most important part of all is to skip the fluff. Let's have a look at this one specifically. So this is the most foundational principle right here. Skip the stuff that you don't want to really read. Skip the shitty parts. Here's a list of all the things that you should speed read. And here is a list of all of the things that you should not speed read and you should slow down and take your time with. Either of these lists might change over time, and it depends exactly what you're reading and again what kind of situation you're in, but it gives you a general idea of what you should read quickly and what you should not read quickly. There are two different ways to skip the fluff. The first one to skip the fluff is to toss the book. You read 30 to 50 pages. By page 50, you should have decided, is this worth it? If you get to page 50 and you're like, I'm not feeling this one, toss the book. You don't have to finish it. That's the beauty about being an adult. There are no tests after reading. You can just fucking read and that's it. And if you don't like it, fuck it, throw it away. There doesn't have to be any underlining or highlighting or circling or annotations. You really don't have to do any of that. Now, the other part is you want to learn to skip sections in the book. You're reading along, the first part, things are great, and then it starts to get dull and boring. Pay attention to that. When that moment happens, skip through it. Most of us just want to continue reading at the same speed all the way through every single book. Most people think speed reading is just every book, every word. The world record holders are just reading all it, and they are, but we're not world record holders. We're not training for some sort of marathon. We just want to learn to adjust the speed in which we're reading. If we're in a book and we want to finish it and we get to a shitty chapter or a shitty section, just boom, you could either just skip right through it. If you're listening to an audiobook, skip. But there's one giant problem. Your mind is still going to wonder, what was in that? I paid 20 bucks for that book. I want to know what is in there. Your brain wants to close it up because when you start a book, your brain wants to finish that book. Now, this is the Zeigarnik effect, and this is the biggest problem most of us run into. And again, a lot of it is from schooling because we're taught we need to read to understand. But the other part is this part of our brain. Our brain has this effect that causes a lot of trouble when we want to read more books and read faster. How does this make you feel? Here's the start, here's the finish, and that's you. You haven't made it to the finish line. What do you want to do? What do we all want to do? We all want to get to the finish line. Fuck yes, we hate when we don't finish things. And that is the Zeigarnik effect. Our brain doesn't like when things go unfinished or the loops aren't closed. Whenever there's an open loop in your life, your brain's job is to keep that open. Whether you know it or not, it's running in the background. And this is what happens with reading more books. Our brain knows if we choose this, we gotta finish this fucking thing. Because most people, like myself, couldn't let go of books. There was no way. If I started a book, I had to finish it. The Zeigarnik effect isn't all bad news. It can be super useful if used the right way. If you are working on a project and you're struggling and procrastinating, one of the things you can do is just get started for a little bit, start the loop, and then your brain will keep it open. So the next day you're like, damn, I need to go finish that, and it'll push you to go finish it. However, and a lot of times if we're not aware of it, the Zeigarnik effect can be harmful because the more things we start, the more loops we have open and the more little hum and the little background noise we have of our brain is like, you need to finish that, you need to finish that. And that is why Most of us have a huge problem when it comes to choosing books, and we feel overwhelmed because we know that when we choose a book, we're like, I gotta finish this book. And guess what? FOMO, you're not missing any good stuff, I promise you, because most books are structured the same way. The most important information is at the front of the book and at the end of the book, and usually the first bits of the chapter, the first couple paragraphs, and the end of the chapter. So no matter what you do, it's your brain. You can't just throw a book away or skip sections. You can, but it's gonna take a long time and a lot of training. But still, it's your brain. It's going against your brain, a natural process in your brain that your brain likes to close loops. And again, this is a good thing. We want to be closers. We want to close loops in life. Actually, one of the biggest problems in life is that most of us have way too many open loops and they're just running in the background of things we haven't finished. So what do you do if skipping the fluff is one of the most foundational things to reading more books and reading faster, but yet your brain won't let you do it? What do you do? And here's the solution. Blitz, 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 you blitz it. Now this is where it all comes full circle. We talked about how you're going to read many different books all at once. You might have 7, 8, 9 different books going all at once. And we also talked about practicing reading as fast as you can to where you almost can't comprehend it. And you're like, wait, why would I do that with books that I like? That's the beauty of it. You don't. You do it with books. When you get to the, oh shit, I want to skip the fluff part, that's when you turn on the jets and you start speed reading. And guess what this does? It helps the Zeigarnik effect in your brain and it closes the loop no matter what. It's hard to beat the Zeigarnik effect. It's hard to beat your brain. So the loop is gonna remain open even if you just like, I didn't like that book and you've read, 50 pages. Somewhere in there, it's gonna be like, damn, I should finish that book, even though it sucks and you didn't like it. And those sections, you might just wanna flip through real fast and then you're gonna be like, wait, I wonder what those sections said. I wonder if there was anything interesting in there. No matter what, we have some FOMO, we have the Zeigarnik effect, and we want to close loops. This is how you do it. You go as fast as you can. If you're listening to an audiobook, I blasted books to 3x speed. Just boom, just listen every once in a while, you catch something that's good, but the book is done, it's closed in my mind. When I get to the end of it, boom, loop closed. Oof, getting fired up about that. You're gonna hear so many videos where they're like, you don't have to finish it. You could just read a little section of it, then you could just skip it and be like, I don't like this book, and throw it. Don't do that to your brain. Finish it. Blitz it. Fast or slow doesn't matter. Whether you read slowly, one word at a time, or you read much faster, it doesn't matter. You're still going to forget what you've read. After a couple weeks, a couple months, and even years, you will absolutely forget what you've read unless you do these things here. If you underline or highlight anything in a book, the information stays in the book. You need to take that information out of the book and pass it through you. And this is recall. Now, recall is actually quite simple. You could do it so easily. If you're reading, at the end of each section or chapter, just stop. Take 5 or 10 minutes and just close the book and just think about it. That's it. Just think about kind of what you learned and ask yourself that question. What was the author trying to say? What did I want to learn? What did I learn from reading that? It sounds tedious. Do you want to just read it and then just forget it? Or would you like to spend 5 minutes and remember the things that you're reading, because that's the point of reading the book. Don't look back. That is the key. Don't look back. Don't open it. It doesn't matter. You're just training that muscle inside your brain to start answering that question. What did I learn by reading that? The next one is the most obvious one that none of us do. Use it. If the book tells you to try this for a week, do it for a week. If it just says to journal on this prompt right now, do it. Just whatever it says, do it, do it, do it, do it. The better books give you little action steps at the end of each chapter or section. And to be honest, I never ever did these. But when I started doing that, one, I never forget the thing that I did, the action. Then I never forget the lesson that I learned from that. And I remember the chapter in the book itself. For example, in the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss has these little comfort challenges. He has a comfort challenge where, especially for men, we know that approaching women in public is terrifying. We're talking about daytime sober, walking up, approach anxiety. And they said to go up and do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm reading the book, I'm gonna do it. And I can vividly remember the moment at the restaurant. I saw this beautiful waitress. We got served and then we were leaving. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it right now. And I went up because of this book. And you never forget it. And I remember the lesson and the chapter and all of it. So If the book tells you to take an action, take an action. Next, teach it. This has been transformational. Teach it to someone, anyone, your friend who doesn't want to listen to you and is tired of hearing about the books, doesn't matter. Get a rubber ducky in your shower or bathtub and then teach it to the rubber ducky. It doesn't matter. The next one is connect it. Certain parts in books connect it to something. Each chapter be like, okay, this reminds me of this. I always try to think of at least one idea, one author, or one specific idea from a book to connect it to. Even in my book breakdowns, I always have like a connect the dots section because I train my brain to find some sort of connection. After you finish for a week or a month or even a couple months, go back and try to review it. Now, this might be hard if you don't have like a database of books or book breakdowns or something like that, but you maybe have the book on your shelf. Go back and just try to maybe review it real quick. Just skim it. Again, you're investing time to read it. You might as well invest, 30 minutes to review a book. It sounds, again, like studying and you don't want to do that, but you also don't want to lose the information. You don't have to. This isn't school. Like, it's over. You read it, you get what you need from it, and that's it. That's fine. The next one is nerd out. This is where I went. I never knew I was such a nerd until this happened. I created a Notion database of over 200 plus books. They turned into not just summaries, but I started adding like contrarian takes, things I disagree with from every book, and I added action steps, which was important. It goes back to the use it principle. It was inspired by Ali Abdaal.
This level 5, is what I regret not doing with everything that I've ever read.
I highly recommend at least taking 30 minutes after you read the book, you recall what you learned after the book and you put it in your little Notion database. It doesn't have to be as crazy as something like mine, but it also takes care of the review it. When you don't have to go find the book or the digital book, or if you're listening to audiobooks, go review it real quick. That's hard with an audiobook, right? If you want mine, it will be for sale. I'll put the link down in the description. Lifetime access, you get access to that. You get access to all of the books that are in there and all future books, which I promise at least 12 books a year or 1 book a month. Maybe it'll be a lot more than that for sure. And then there's gonna be a discount into this, and that's what I call an intellectual action community. And this is a group of people that love to read books, but aren't taking the actions from the book. People like me, who we read the books and then nothing really happened. We expected things to change because we didn't have that group, that community to make the change. So many of us just read and we're like, okay, I want to learn about business and sales, but then we don't do it. Like, you're reading it for that. If you're interested, leave a comment down below or email me. We meet once a month and we talk about one book in particular for a specific reason. And that's it, to change an area of our life. Not just to read the book and be like, hey, I learned this. This was interesting in this book. No, it's going to be about actions. What action did you take after reading this book that changed your life? How did it change your life? Why did it change your life? Would you recommend that to anybody? What kind of people would you recommend that action for? It's about the actions and the failures that come with taking those actions. We recall what we learned, that we actually use it in the group or in our life, and then we come back and we teach it to others in the group, and then we're connecting it to other dots, and as we're talking and discussing and talking about the actions, we're obviously reviewing it, and then we all become huge nerds and learn so much. I realize that time and time again that I just love books so much, and I love learning and growth, and I get so excited when I make these videos. I hope you're as excited as I am for what's coming.